Stern has become such a wussified sycophant, he doesn't realize that telling Kamala that he'd vote for a wall is telling her that he knows she's as dumb as one. I mean, not to mention, Trump is the wall candidate, not Cackle's McKnee pads. Stern got even more pathetic, wondering how she doesn't nap.
That brings me to Howard Stern and his interview of Kamala Harris, where he put the cards on the table about how he was feeling, in particular about her latest media tour, which did not include Saturday Night Live, but she was lampooned on it a little. A lampoon may be too strong, but she was mocked, as they usually do, just to Republicans.
Greg Gutfeld stepped into the moment with that familiar crooked grin, the kind that signals something sharp is coming. This time, the target wasn't politicians or cultural nonsense. It was Howard Stern, once the shock radio king, feared by regulators and loathed by parents. Stern was suddenly facing his own past. Greg didn't just poke fun at him. He pulled up old clips and set them beside the toned-down version we see today. The rebel who once thrived on chaos now feels like a carefully preserved relic, kept alive by nostalgia, not relevance.
Isis at strippers' butts. With accuracy, I might add. Now he's worried the possible leader of the free world can't handle his verbal foot rub. I wonder if he used to get this nervous for the strippers before he'd spank them on their bare asses with a dead fish.
Howard Stern's legacy, without holding back. Greg's razor-sharp humor, paired with Megyn's precise dismantling, showed just how far Stern has fallen. The fearless radio outlaw, who once burned everything in his path, has turned into a careful, pampered figure chasing approval. What was once wild, uncontrollable chaos is now polished celebrity access. This wasn't a playful roast. It was a full teardown. The myth that once dominated the airwaves was stripped apart, piece by piece. Nothing was spared. A once towering legacy crumbled in real time.
There's too much at stake. I believe the entire future of this country right now, I mean, as America, land of the free, home of the brave, I think it's literally on the line.
I agree with you.
And when I see them, how did you react to this Saturday Night Live?
Here's Stern on anyone daring to poke a little fun at Kamala.
Even when I watch them on Saturday Night Live with the where they have Maya Rudolph playing you, I hate it. I don't want you being made fun of.
Oh my God.
There's too much at stake. I believe the entire future of this country right now, I mean, as America, land of the free, home of the brave, I think it's literally on the line.
So a guy who's supposed to be funny for a living now claims her candidacy is too important to joke about.
Greg opened by pointing out Stern's shocking transformation. The reckless shock jock of the past has morphed into a Botox-smoothed, bathrobe-wearing figure who now sounds more like an NPR host blended with therapy speak. Greg joked that watching Stern today feels like learning your favorite punk icon retired to open a luxury wellness spa in the Hamptons, serving herbal tea and lecturing about inner peace. He reminded viewers that Stern once mocked everyone and everything. Politicians, celebrities, and political correctness were all fair game. Now that fire is barely flickering.
Right after the Columbine massacre, that the killers should have raped the students before killing them. Not that I like that Stern, but this pendulum swing from saying the most tasteless thing in the universe to putting your balls in a Tic Tac container. You gotta wonder what's going on here. It's striking that the king of the most misogynistic humor ever now turns into a breathless over a progressive, hopelessly shallow candidate.
Now Stern sips green juice and apologizes for the very jokes that made him famous. Greg said Stern didn't just sell out, he sold the whole operation. The mic, the booth, the headphones, even his spine went with it. He compared the old Stern to a wrecking ball, and the current version to a carefully choreographed performer who won't move without legal clearance. Today, Stern lectures about tolerance and self-improvement while sitting on decades of shock radio content that would have the modern Stern filing lawsuits against his former self.
Thing in Stern's previous career that could withstand this modern witch hunt that he now embraces. So this is a form of restitution. Maybe he says, if I'm woke too, the crocodile will eat me last, but they always do eat. But I get it. He flipped from populist to elitist because now he's with elitists. He's living in the Hamptons. What would the Stern of now think of the Stern?
Greg then zeroed in on the hypocrisy. Stern spent years branding himself as fearless, brutally honest, and completely unfiltered. But once the Sirius XM checks started clearing and celebrity friendships piled up, everything shifted. He became the very type of figure he once mocked, a protected elite surrounded by handlers and carefully managed conversations. Greg said Stern went from punk rebellion to polished PR in record time, trading danger for comfort, edge for image, and truth for status.
Okay, I hope you had a good week. I did, and no thanks to Howard Stern. True, the New York Post reported that Stern hit a chic restaurant in NYC with a crew of A-listers, including Jimmy Kimmel, Jennifer Aniston, John Hamm, Justin Theroux, Jason Bateman. I was not invited. I guess because my first name doesn't begin with...
Greg Gutfeld tore into Howard Stern, mocking how a man once allergic to Hollywood fakery now rolls out the red carpet for celebrity. Stern's show, Greg argued, has become a glossy PR lounge where stars receive praise instead of pushback. Chaos has been replaced by comfort. Greg joked that Stern didn't just grow older, he froze in time, turning into a polished, waxy version of his former self. Even the audience has changed. Anyone who remembers Stern's wild early years now needs serious patience to sit through today's slow, reflective monologue.
What keeps me up at night, I don't understand how my fellow Americans, I don't even understand how this election is close. And yes, I'm voting for you, but I would also vote for that wall over there. When you said you don't nap, I get it, because like what you've taken on is extraordinarily difficult. And I mean, do you feel the pressure of the moment in the sense that, like when I met you out in the hall, I said, I'm really nervous because I want this to go well for you. I want it to go well for the country. Even when I watch them on Saturday Night Live with the, where they have Maya Rudolph playing you, I hate it. I don't want you being made fun.
Megyn Kelly opened calm, but her words cut deep. She said Stern's slide from rebel to relic was completely predictable. Rebellion without principles always collapses. Stern, she argued, wasn't brave. He was loud. When outrage stopped paying, the courage disappeared with it. What he calls personal growth wasn't evolution. It was self-preservation, a way to stay welcome among elites while walking away from the audience that made him famous. The old Stern mocked conformity. The new one sells it, repackaged as self-awareness.
Well, I just saw it, actually, and it was funny. I am a huge fan of Maya Rudolph's. I think she put a lot of time into doing the piece and the character.
Okay, so I do think it's interesting. He's very scared. A lot of I hear this from a lot of my Democrat friends. They're scared of Trump winning again. They're scared of...
Megyn leaned hard into the irony. Howard Stern once fought censorship, but now hides behind political correctness like armor. The outsider didn't just join the establishment, he was absorbed by it. The man who mocked virtue signaling now proudly performs it. She compared the old Stern to a roaring lion, and today's version to a declawed house cat, quietly seeking approval. He didn't evolve, she said. He retreated, not toward wisdom, but acceptance. Stern now lectures everyday people about empathy while living comfortably among elites. He treats his past like an embarrassment.
While listening to it. You should hear what keeps him up at night.
Megyn sharpened her attack, pointing out that Stern's show once thrived on discomfort and challenge. Now it avoids both. He's terrified of backlash and obsessed with staying in the good graces of the elite. Her knockout line hit hard. Howard Stern didn't grow. He shrank. He folded into money, safety, and validation while pretending to remain fearless. Greg jumped back in, joking that Stern now sounds like a comedian who forgot the punchline but keeps telling the joke anyway.
But it is incredibly brave to take this stance after you've made $300, $400 million not being woke, right? Loving Donald Trump, exploiting the mentally ill, wearing blackface. Look at the crop of woke comics, whether it's Stern or Jimmy Kimmel, his BFF, Sarah Silverman, Joy Behar, Michael Ian Black. What do they all have in common? They wore blackface. And then they went woke. It's not a chicken or egg thing there. You know what order it came.
Megyn agreed and delivered the final blow. Stern's real tragedy isn't change, it's trading his identity for approval. He didn't gain wisdom, he gained permission. Together, she and Greg let that verdict hang. Relevance doesn't last forever, and Stern's may have expired. Greg mocked how Stern still sees himself as an outsider, even while blending seamlessly into the establishment he once attacked. He used to swing hard. Now it's soft gloves and careful emotions. Shock radio has become comfort radio. The king of all media now feels more like the Duke of disclaimers.
And this is Stern's self-imposed penance for subjugating women to demoralizing stunts, capitalizing on desperate females thirsting for attention, even if it's from an oily paddle striking their bare asses. True, much of Stern's transformation is based mainly on a delusional hatred for Trump, but it's also coming from a bottomless hatred for himself. It is.
Greg laughed at how Stern now fills airtime with therapy talk, emotional reflections, and endless explanations of his personal growth. It's barely radio anymore, Greg joked. More like an audiobook nobody asked for. Megyn closed with icy clarity. Stern once had the platform and the guts to challenge everything. Now he challenges nothing. He went from questioning the crowd to chasing its approval.
She also appeared on Howard Stern, where he said he'd even vote for a wall over Trump. Harris replied, "I'm not a wall, but I am plaster."
Megyn called him a warning. When rebellion is traded for comfort and truth for clout, all that's left is an empty echo.
We're simply redefining masculinity. And why is it always the male lefties who are so desperate to get rid of masculinity entirely? It's guilt and self-preservation. Because scrape beneath the surface of any liberal male, and what do you find? A creep, terrified of his priggish past. Piggish past, I mean, not priggish.
Greg closed with his trademark sting. Stern didn't just abandon rebellion, he rebuilt it into a shrine to himself. He replaced the stage with mirrors, turning every broadcast into an exercise in self-admiration. The man who once promised to tear down the system now carefully polishes its trophy.